Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. And we have Jen Stevens talking about intermittent fasting, clean fasting versus dirty fasting, and answering your questions. So, question number one. What is a clean fast versus a dirty fast for you?
Well, I will say that I don't find it to be controversial at all when you study the science of it. Once you understand what our goals are in the fasted state and why we're fasting, you would never want to dirty fast. I actually don't think dirty fasting is a thing. And we understood that fasting was so much more than just because you were eating less food. It's got a lot of metabolic and hormonal effects. But in order to access the effect, the positive benefits that you're looking for, you need to make sure that you're actually fasting. So I like to think of it, with three things that we're trying to accomplish during the fast. First of all, we're trying to keep insulin low. Insulin in the medical literature is referred to as anti-lipolytic. That means that it's anti-fat burning. So if you have high levels of insulin, it's going to be very hard for you to access your stored body fat. So you want to have low levels of insulin. So we keep insulin low by not having our brain think that food is incoming. That's literally what insulin does for us. Your brain says, ooh, something sweet is coming in. And our brains don't understand artificial sweeteners and that it has 0 calories. We have the cephalic phase insulin response, and our brains release insulin in response, and that will keep us from tapping into our stored body fat. So we avoid flavored things, all those water enhancers. People are like, I can't drink water plain. I need the taste. Well, you don't need the taste. Your brain, is constantly thinking that you're having, fruit beverages, or it doesn't understand. So to keep insulin low, you want to stick to plain water, plain sparkling water, no added flavors or sweeteners, black tea, green tea, black coffee, because a bitter flavor does not cause our brain to think food's incoming. Bitter is one of those flavors our brain does not associate with needing insulin. So I said there were 3 things we wanted to make sure to accomplish in the fasted state. The first is keeping insulin low. The second is we want to access our stored fat for fuel. And so we avoid ingesting external energy sources during the fast. All of those are actually fuel sources for your body. So if you're ingesting all those foods, you're not fasting, you're taking in energy. So that would also not be part of a clean fast. We want to access our stored body fat. And the third thing we want to keep in mind when we're fasting is we want to increase autophagy. And it increases during the fasted state. And what turns off autophagy? Protein. So if you're ingesting protein during the fast, then that's going to stop autophagy. We know it's not only the calories. So I think the clean fast is really the key to making this work as a lifestyle, because prior to reading the obesity code, I was a heavy stevia user in my coffee. I would add stevia, I would add cinnamon, and fasting was very difficult. Every day I white knuckled it until it was time for my eating window, and I just thought, well, of course it's hard. Fasting is hard, I'm not eating. Once I read the obesity code and realized, I need to keep my insulin low, it's like a switch was flipped. So it changed everything. I never had to struggle with the fast anymore. It became so much easier. So I have something that I like to call the Clean Fast Challenge. And for anyone who thinks that, like for example, gum works for you, or some stevia works for you, or diet sodas work for you, or a little cream works for you, or, this fruity flavored tea works for you. If you think those things work for you, I challenge you to give them up for 1 month. Take those things out of your fast, stick to plain water, plain sparkling water, black coffee, black tea, nothing added, plain green tea. Try whatever it is you thought worked for you. See how it feels. You will know the difference. You will not go back. Trust me.
So question number 2, the number one question that kind of comes in, when people are emailing in, is they're like, maybe I did an episode on clean fasting or someone talked about it and they're like, my biggest problem is, they say, I love coffee and I have to have coffee in the morning. And they're like, really, is 20 calories or 40 calories of coffee creamer going to hurt my fast? And wouldn't it be better? This is what they say. Wouldn't it be better for me to start with at least starting with that and then, trying to work my way up to that than not doing it? Because they kind of are like, if I'm going to have to give up my coffee with cream, then I'm just not going to do it. How would you answer that?
That's a great question. And really, I don't think it's better to do it that way than to not do it at all. And here's why. We know based on research that low calorie dieting has bad effects for our bodies. The research came out a few years ago about The Biggest Loser. You remember the Biggest Loser study? It showed that the low calorie dieting that they did actually slowed their metabolic rates over time. And then it was really hard for them to recover after that. Well, with fasting, when we're fasting clean, our bodies, as we said, our insulin goes down. We're able to access our fat stores for fuel. So our bodies have no reason to downregulate our metabolic rate. We're actually ramping up our metabolism during the fast because there's plenty of fuel stored on your body. But that little bit of creamer that you're having, it's raising your insulin because it's sweet. You're not going to be able to access your fat stores as effectively. And so in essence, you are missing out on those metabolic and hormonal benefits of the clean fast. And so you're low calorie dieting and you're not fasting. That is the whole difference. So we actually see people who have been what some people call dirty fasting, as we said earlier, that I don't like that term at all, but people who have been dirty fasting for a long period of time and then they switch to the clean fast, they actually have to adjust all over again because you really have not been fasting. And so you're likely not fat adapted. You're not, you just really have to go through that whole adjustment period again. So I'm a believer in ripping off that Band-Aid because your taste buds can change. I'm sitting here with my cup of black coffee and I haven't had to give up coffee. I still drink it, but my taste buds have adapted to the black coffee and it will happen. You're not going to die.
Hey guys, if you want to try one of these necklaces, if you want to try any of these EMF tools, go to essentialenergy.us and use coupon code Chantel Ray for a huge discount. That's essentialenergy.us. So you guys know I've interviewed women all across the country that have been naturally thin their whole life with no dieting, no gimmicks. I interviewed over 1,000 women. I asked them, what'd you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And they told me everything. And so I actually have written 4 books now with all of these insights. I have put their secrets all right there. And so if you're tired of just the diet roller coaster and you just cannot lose that weight, I have a book called Waste Away. That's the very first one. That's how I break down how I discovered intermittent fasting, how it changed my body, and how thin eaters, they don't even call it intermittent fasting. They just do it. Fasting to Freedom is another book I wrote. It goes deeper. It's more into the spiritual and emotional side of fasting. It brings clarity and confidence, and it really kind of teaches you how to do a little bit longer fasting. Then I have One Meal and a Tasting. It's my most practical guide. It just walks you step by step through how you can live a sustainable fasting lifestyle and literally the exact things that these women did while enjoying the foods you love. And then finally, a Bible study that's called Freedom from Food. And this is like a 6-week study that you can do with a group of friends. It's really fun to do with a group. These books are the complete bundle. So if you go to chantelrayway.com, we're actually doing one free giveaway for the complete bundle. So if you go to our Facebook group, it's the Intermittent Fasting and OMAD group. Make sure you join. We're going to do a free contest for a free bundle for one lucky person. But if you want it right away, just grab the free bundle. It's the cheapest it's ever been because we want you to get your breakthrough, your body, your rules, your breakthrough. chantelrayway.com. And question number 3. Talk a little bit about how long does it take for someone to get into that fat adapted state where they are now burning that fat instead of, kind of like their transition is easier. Talk about that for a second.
Well, there's so many factors that come into play. So it could be something that happens very quickly for somebody, or it could be something that takes 8 weeks for somebody else for that to happen. So let's back up just a little bit and let's talk about the liver. And our liver has glycogen stored in it. That's after you eat sugar, your body does all sorts of things. Not even just sugar. After you eat carbohydrates, after you eat anything that your body can get glucose out of, your body uses some of it for energy, but it stashes some away in your liver as stored glycogen. Whatever is left over, it will store it as fat, convert it into fat. And so let's think about that liver as a tank for a minute of stored glycogen. And when you first start fasting on day 1, let's assume you've been eating the standard American diet up to that point. You've just been eating, mixed meals, carbs, proteins, fats. Your liver glycogen is going to be full. Your storage tank is full. So on that first day of fasting, you're not eating. Later, you're going to eat later, but during the fast, you're not eating. Your body is going to empty out stored liver glycogen to provide fuel for you. It'll give fuel to your brain. It'll give you some energy during the day. So your tank goes down a little bit. Then you eat. You put some back in. Then the next day, your tank goes down some more during the fast. Then the next day, you put some more back in. So you're not running on fat yet. You're still not fat adapted. So however long it takes your body to deplete that stored glycogen, once you get to a certain level of depletion, then your body's like, okay, we got to find some more fuel, especially for your brain, because your brain really likes to run on glucose if that's what you're putting in. But once that liver glycogen is low enough, there's not enough glucose to fuel your brain happily. Now that's when you might have some really difficult transition time. You might feel foggy and lethargic. This may happen for you around week 2. It might be week 5. It might be week 6. It just depends. It depends a lot on what you're putting back in during your eating window and also how quickly you're burning through that stored liver glycogen. Once you get to the other side of this, then your body can start getting into the stored fat, and it's going to turn your stored fat into ketones, and your brain loves ketones. Once you make that transition, the fasting becomes easier. Your brain is not as foggy. You have mental clarity, and then you can know that you're fat adapted. Now, could you get there sooner? Sure. Doing slightly longer fasts could get you there sooner. Also, if someone is doing, eating lower carb, you're going to be putting less into your glycogen stores every day. So you may become fat adapted more quickly. For me, when I, in 2014, made the transition back into intermittent fasting, I had actually been doing the keto diet for the whole summer of 2014. And based on what I know now, after having my DNA analyzed, I didn't lose any weight on the keto diet, and I know why now. My genetics don't go very well with the keto diet. I need more carbs in my diet to feel good. I didn't lose any weight on keto, but I was certainly fat adapted. I was not running on glucose because I wasn't putting any in. So as soon as I switched over from the keto diet to intermittent fasting, I added carbs back in, and I immediately started losing weight. I think I was already fat adapted from the keto diet. So even if the keto diet is not a way for you to lose weight, if it's not something you feel great doing, you don't think it's a long-term lifestyle, it still could be a great way for you to adapt to fat burning. And so you're not burning fat from your body. I didn't lose any fat at all during the keto diet. But I was fat adapted from it. So I was in ketosis from the fat that I was eating. And then when I switched to intermittent fasting, my body was able to finally tap into my fat stores. And I added the carbs back, and I never looked back, and I felt great. So that's just a way someone might want to transition when they're starting off.